Hi, welcome to all you real estate enthusiasts. Real Estate 101 is a series where I walk you through everything you need to know about buying a home, from dream to reality and life post-possession. I'm Val and I'm a licensed realtor with Royal LePage Solutions with 15 years of experience. I'm super passionate about real estate and really love helping people navigate the buying and selling process. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about buyer basics. Buyer Basics is the first video of this series. It's very important to start at the beginning, learn the vocabulary, and the most important thing you're going to need to learn is working with your professional realtor and what they're going to provide for you. To start with, when I work with a buyer, I give them a buyer's kit. This is going to cover all the basics you're going to need to get started. And while it's fun looking on the internet and dreaming about all the homes you want to buy, the first most important thing is to understand what you're getting into financially before you start dreaming a little bit too big for your bank account. So the first flyer that I always give everybody is called Learn Before You Leap. This is going to talk about all your financing options, as well as your financial responsibilities, getting pre-approval, understanding your monthly payments, and understanding the different products available for you to pay for your home. There's also another cost with buying a home, and that is your legal fees. Legal fees are going to include your disbursements, as well as the actual legal fee to the lawyer for processing your paperwork, and they're going to vary based on the price of your home. Generally, they run from $800 to $1,500, solely on the value of your property. Now, if you're also going to be buying a rural property, I also look at rural and acreages. They have a separate set of factors, a little bit more advanced than for what your buyer is usually looking for in their first time property, because we're dealing with septic systems and wells. But some people do like to start life off in the country, so that is also an option that you would have to research. And lastly, sometimes people are also selling while they're buying. They may have inherited a property, or they may have a rental property that they want to buy first, leverage that to get that second property before they sell their initial one. So there are options for that too. So I want to talk a bit about why you use a realtor. There's a lot of benefits for using a realtor. Of course, first of all, you want to have a professional that is looking after your needs, who also carries errors and omissions insurance and can have access to all the properties that you want to see. One of the biggest reasons is we have fiduciary duties to you. Fiduciary is a big word that basically says we have to be honest and trustworthy, keep things confidential, and look after your needs first and foremost. Our first priority is to always make sure your investment, your purchase, is looked after. I know a lot of buyers don't know a realtor. They get nervous about working with a realtor. They randomly click on links, call signs, and they don't actually rest on one person. It's important to understand, if you don't actually hire a realtor to work for you, they don't actually owe you any fiduciary duties, which means their allegiance is not necessarily to you in that transaction until you've engaged them under what we call a buyer brokerage agreement. I'm going to be holding your hand, walking you through every clause of the agreement to make sure you understand and that you're completely comfortable, because at the end of the day, this is your money and your choice of which home and which realtor you want to work with, and all realtors want to make sure you're completely comfortable with those choices. You can find a link to all these resources below. You can also connect with me via my website. So you've selected your realtor, you have determined some of your needs and wants and criteria of where you're moving forward in your search, and now there's going to be some paperwork. Often we don't give you the paperwork right off the start because we want to make sure we want to work with you and you're comfortable with us, and now you're comfortable with us, and so we're moving forward in this relationship. The first item up is FinTrack. That is the fancy name where we check your ID and make sure that you are who you say you are. The next document is the Consumer Relationships Guide. Basically, the Consumer Relationships Guide is for anybody who is working with a third party to represent them in a financial transaction. So we want you to understand that we will be negotiating on your behalf. We will be looking after contracts for you and representing you in this transaction. There are different representations that can happen as we go through the process, and we often revisit consumer agency as that happens. The biggest one that can happen is I'm listing the house, you've come up to me to buy the house, and now I'm representing the buyer and seller. It used to be called dual agency, and we still use that word, that phrase, we throw it around a lot, but it's actually called transaction facilitation now. And under designated agency, and I know this is a lot of vocabulary to throw you in one video, designated agency means that we can represent both a buyer and seller in the province of Alberta. There are some provinces in Canada where this isn't allowed, but it is permitted and completely legal here in Alberta. Lastly, you will have to sign a buyer brokerage agreement. We used to only require the seller sign a seller brokerage agreement because that had to be concreted that they were being represented in the transaction. But now, because of open houses, virtual showings, and so much cross communication that happens, we want to make sure that the buyer has acknowledged who is representing them in the transaction, and that's why you enter into a buyer brokerage agreement. The buyer brokerage agreement is also for your protection, so it's very important. It allows you to have expectations for the realtor and even dictate specific services that you may want. Some of my buyer brokerages include that I will do virtual tours, I will provide video, I will attend home inspections and be there for the entire time of the home inspection in case anything comes up. So the buyer brokerage agreement certainly protects the buyers, and so don't be afraid of them. Buyer brokerage agreements will also outline how we're paid. So in 99% of transactions, we're paid through the transaction, and we've set our fee and we outline it for you in that agreement. There's the odd time where we're working with a for sale by owner or someone who's maybe offering a flat fee or no fee at all, and we have to revisit the buyer brokerage to make sure that the realtor representing you is being compensated for the work that they're doing. If the situation changes and these things arise, we can revisit a buyer brokerage. A buyer brokerage agreement will also allow you to fire your realtor. So if you are not happy working with me or any other realtor, we do have a termination agreement for a buyer brokerage agreement, and that is also outlined in your exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. This is a very complex topic. If you have any questions or comments about the buyer brokerage agreement or the relationship with your realtor, feel free to comment below. So those are the 3 documents that are going to be the first basic thing for every buyer: the FINTRAC, consumer agency, and your buyer brokerage agreement. Now the fun part begins. We get to go look at properties. Thank you so much for tuning into Real Estate 101 and this episode on Buyer Basics. I hope you learned a lot about the basics of buying a home and feel confident in taking the next step towards homeownership. If you like this video, please make sure you click the like button. And if you want to keep up with real estate videos here on my YouTube channel, please make sure to click the subscribe button. I post videos every Friday. See you in my next video.